மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next tactic. We have a game here between two very strong players from the U.S. Playing white is none other than Galakomsky, former U.S. champion, and probably the most reputable player known for playing the London before it became popular. And playing black is Grandmaster Rufeng Li, one of the youngest Grandmasters in the U.S., very strong player. And in this position, it should look familiar. This is the position which we had in the first lesson in the game Carlsen-Bosiocic. And in this position, Rufeng Li played the same move that Bosiocic played, knight to e7, and Komsky responded with bishop d3. Now, if you recall the Carlsen game, that went all along the lines after b6, and then the very strong e4. This game took a different path, where after bishop d3, Rufeng Li played knight g6. And we're going to see a very similar sort of theme compared to the last game that we saw with Nabati, where white is going for the kingside attack, given that a lot of the minor pieces can access the kingside. So going forward here, knight e5 played by Komsky, very strong, typical move, which we see very often in London. b6, and then h4, wasting no time, going for this h5 move, trying to chase away one of the key defenders on g6. Bishop e7 played, h5, knight e7, and then queen f3, just applying more pressure. I really like how Komsky is wasting no time to attack, already optimized the knight, the h-pawn, the queen, and already you really have to start looking for tactics. And especially after black's next move, knight e8, this is white to move and find the best way of crashing through. Now, interestingly enough, Komsky did not find the best continuation from here. What he played in the game was still a decent move. He castled queenside and then eventually went on to win the game. But there is a much stronger tactical opportunity here, and if you weren't able to solve it, don't worry, because Komsky overlooked this. But it's just a really nice kind of combination, kind of attacking sequence to finish off the attack much quicker. And the move is bishop take h7, sacrificing the bishop, but opening up the black king and getting tons of compensation, given the h-pawn is ready to break through, and then hopefully open up the h-file as the rook can enter the game. So let's take a look at some lines, because of course after king take h7, if you're going to calculate this, you have to see what happens next. The best continuation for white is to play h6, and if the h-file opens, it's going to be pretty devastating for black. Not to mention that not only is white having threats of just simply pawn take g7, but there's also threats of knight take f7. So if we look at perhaps a few different options for black, let's imagine that the g6 is played, attempting to keep the h-file closed. Then white can very simply respond with knight take f7, hitting the queen, hitting this bishop on d6 twice. Queen should probably move. Not to mention knight g5 is happening. Let's say queen c7 is played, then knight g5, let's say king g8, and then just h7 check, king g7, and then we can queen and deliver checkmate like this. So going back, knight take f7 is a pretty big threat to deal with. If we look at some other lines, let's imagine knight to f6. This doesn't really solve too many things, because after pawn take g7, king take g7 is very strong continuation, just bishop to h4. So much pressure along the diagonal, given the h-file is now open. There's threats of queen take f6 or bishop take f6. If we imagine black tries to defend in some way, let's say knight to f5, bishop take f6, queen take f6, and then queen g4 check, is just game over, given that black's only two legal moves are queen g6 and queen g5. And if king take f6, maybe black could fight on for a bit longer, but at the very least, white is winning that material with just a great position after pawn g4. So going back, there are some additional lines, and what I would encourage the viewers to do is to dig into these lines perhaps a bit closer. It is hard to cover all the variations, but I think we can see that white has a ton of pressure in this position and is at the very least winning that material and having amazing winning chances. So let's look at one last line to finish off. Let's say g take h6. White can then just take on f7, hitting the pawn in h6, ideas of knight g5, of course hitting the queen, and all the lines are going to end very badly for black. Let's say king g7. White can then just take on h6, because if rook take f7, there is very beautiful rook h7 check, king take h7, queen take f7. The rooks got traded. White is still, White's actually down 2 minor pieces here, but after knight g7, White can castle queenside with the unstoppable threat of rook h1, and White is cruising to victory. So this is another nice kind of demonstrative kingside attack into London. We're going to see this so many more times throughout this course, where you'll have a lot of pressure on the kingside, and it's a matter of breaking through. Bishop take h7, perhaps not the easiest move to calculate, but it's about calculating the forcing variations and being able to make the right judgments that you have enough compensation to convert the attack. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next lesson.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.